Okay, so this is a video for the GCSE Classical Greek Prose Paper 2024, and it's on Herodotus's Pygmies. So that's pages 132 to 137 of the anthology by OCR. So the green slides are the text that we're going to be working through. After we've worked through all of this particular slide, there'll be a blank slide that's a sort of pale peach orange color, and that's a review slide. So see how far you can get working your way through certain clauses, sentences, up to a number of lines. There won't be a huge amount of style in this. Anything that crops up from the book I'll mention, but ultimately this is just about getting the translation sorted. Okay, so what is known about the River Nile and its source beyond Egypt? Mekrimen tetaron menon plukai hodu gignoskatai honelos, parex tu en Aigupto rumatos, reda af hesperas tekai heliu dusmon. Todeapo tude udes eke saphos phrasai. Eremos ga estin her cora hauta upo kaumatos. Alatade men kusa andron kurenaion phamenon elthein te epito amonos cresterion kai afficestai eis logus hetarchor to ammonion basile kai pos ek logon alon afficonto eis lesken peritunelu os udes ude oide tas pegas autu. Okay, so Honelos, the Nile, Gignoskatai, has been explored. Mekri, as far as, Plu, a voyage, Kai, here meaning or, Hodu, a journey, Tetaron Menon, of 4 months. There is a note about Mekri. Next bit. Parex beyond to Rumatos, the river or the part that flows. So that's to Rumatos en Aiguptio in Egypt. And Ray, it flows. Te, both. Af Hesperas, from the west. I, and Dusmorn, the setting, Heliu, of the sun. So there's a note about Af Hesperas. So the Nile flows from south to north, except near modern Lake Nasser, where it flows from the southwest. So, how thrilling. Next. So, Todapo Tude. So, that's as for the part after this. So, that's a suggested gloss from the anthology. Udes, no one. Eke, here meaning is able. Phrasai, to say. Saphos, clearly. So there's a contrast being drawn between Mekri, which means here as far as, and then Todapotude, meaning as far as for the part after this. So they're really saying that the knowledge of the Nile is, or Herodotus is suggesting that knowledge of the Nile is limited. Okay. Next, Gar 4. This land, so her Cora Hauta, is that Hauta? It is Hauta. Este is Eremos, deserted. Hupo, because of Kaumatos, the heat. Allah, but Hercusa, I have heard. Tademan, the following things. Andron Kuranayon, from Cyrenian men, saying that they, understood, te, both, went, Elthane, epi, to Cresterion, the oracle, Amornos of Ammon, Kai, and Aphikestai Ace Logus, they got into conversation, Hetearchor with Etearchos, to Basile, the king, Ammonion of the Ammonians. So there's a couple of names and places here. So Cyrenaeans, that's inhabitants of Cyrene. That's a a city founded by Greek colonists in the 7th century on the north coast of modern Libya, east of the Gulf of Sirte or Sirte. And for Ammon, so Ammon was a principal Egyptian deity identified with Zeus by the Greeks. His oracle was in Siwa, about 560 kilometers west of the pyramids in Giza. Ammonium was the ancient name for the Siwa oasis. Etearchus ruled the Ammonians. So, again, that's really. So moving on, Kaipos, and somehow Ek Logon Alon. So that again, there's a suggestion of following on from other talk. Aficonto Ace less gain. They got into conversation, Peritu Nilu, about the Nile, horse, how, Udes, no one, Oide, knows, Taspergas, here meaning the source, Autu, of it. So having said I won't do anything about style, there is something in the in this line here, Aphikestai Ace Logus, and then we've got Aficonto Ace Lescan. So potentially there's a little bit of variety there. What that actually achieves, I don't know, but a little bit of variety. So here is the review slide, helpfully titled. So when you're learning this, can you do the first clause? Can you do the second clause? Can you do the first sentence? Can you add the second sentence? Can you add the next clause, the next full sentence, and so on? So building up, just in case any of you, anybody else encounters this online. So next part. Ode Etearchos Elthane Potiga Eauton Dasamonas Andras Hoi Erotomenoi Eiti Ecusi Pleon Legain Periton Eremon Tes Libues Ephesan Pa Heautois Genestai Andron Donaston Paidas Hubristas Hoi Alate Mecanointo Androthentes peritata. You do need to try and do that. Haidekai apocleurosean pente heauton opsomenus ta erema tes libues. Which means, but hot etearchos, Epher said that, understood, Nasamonas Andras, Nasamonian men, Pote, once, Elthane, came into the presence of Heauton, him, hoi, who, erotomenoi, having been asked, if Ekusi, they were able, legain, to say, ti, anything, play on more, peri, about ton eremon, the desert regions, tes libues, of Libya, Ephesan, they said, that, understood. Pa heautus genestai, among them there were hubristas, so arrogant or unruly, paidas, here sons, andron donaston, of the rulers, so literally of powerful men, but of the rulers or lords or aristocrats, if you other suggestions. Hoi, who, androthentas, having been initiated into manhood, mekanointo, devised, alla te peritta, a number of strange rites, kai, including apokleuroi sean, they chose by lot, penta, 5, heauton of them, hopsomenus, in order to explore, ta erema, the desert regions, tes libues, of Libya. And there's our second review slide. And that is the end of page 132. Moving on. So there are 3 distinct regions of Africa, as the young Nasamonian aristocrats discover when they set off on their adventures. Teska libues tamen kata ten borean thalasan. It should be a double tau, but never mind. Ap Aiguptu arxamenoi mekri soloentos akras, sorry. Teleuta tes libues oikusi libues kai libuon ethne pola. Plen hoson helenes kai phoenikes akusi. Tade kathu perthe tuton theriodes estin he libue. Tade kathu perthe tes theriodus samos te esti kai anudros denos kai eremos panton. So this one jumps about a bit, as you can probably see. So Gar, 4, Libues, the Libyans, Kai, and Pola, many, Ethne, tribes, Libuon, of Libyans, Oikusi, inhabit, Tatmen, the region, Tes Libues, of Libya, Kataturn, Borean, Thalatan, along the northern coast. There's nothing there. Right. Next bit. Arxamenoi, starting, Apaiguptu, from Egypt, Mekri, here meaning as far as, the Akras, the Cape Soloentos, of Soleis. So there is a note about that. So the precise location is debated, but it is on the Atlantic coast of Africa, in or south of Morocco. So make of that what you will. So the Cape of Soleis, which Teleutai marks the end of Tes Libues, Libya. plen hoson, except for whatever Hellenes, the Greeks, Kai, and Phoenikes, the Phoenicians, Ekusi, literally have but occupy. There is a note about the Hellenes, Kai, Phoenikes, but I'll spare you that. Tade, but the parts Cathupertha below Teuton, these Libya, Estin is Theriordes, infested with wild beasts. But de ta, the parts Cathupertha below Tes Theriordus, this region full of wild beasts, even not beats, beasts. Esti is te both Samos, sand, Kai, and Danos, terribly, Anudros, waterless, Kai, and Eremos, devoid, Panton of all things. So again, not hugely important, useful stuff from a style point of view, but a couple of observations. You've got a repetition of Tade Kathu Perthe. So you've got that in the third line from the bottom and the second line from the bottom. But they're also using those as saying a sort of sectioning out understanding of what happens. Okay. You've also got a repetition in sorts of Theriordes and then Theriordus, so a nominative and a genitive. Then in the third line, we've got not necessarily a tricolon as such, but we've got three things. So below this infested area, it's sand, it's terribly waterless, and it's devoid of all things. Okay, so it's, as we would say, a desert. So just something to think about there in light of anything being offered by ontology. So review slide. It's the same sort of thing. Work your way through. I think this one actually is slightly easier than others because of the repetition in those last 2.5 lines. Next bit. Hoi un neaniai hos ephasan hoi nasamones apopempomenoi hupo torn helicorn hodati tekai sitiois el exertumenoi es eisan proton mendietes oikumenes tauten dx sorry DXL Fontes, Eisten Theriorde Aficonto, Ec de Tautes ten Eremon, Diexasan, ten Hodon, Poiumenoi, Pros Zephyron, Anamon. So, let's we do this. Un, therefore, hoi neaniai, the young men, horse as, hoi Nasamones, the Nasamonians, Ephesan said, Apopempomenoi, when they have been sent out, who put 10 helicon by their peers, and understood here, el ex tumenoi, and having been well equipped with, te both hudati, water, kai, and food, sitiois. So an important section there. Aesan, they went proton first, diates oikomenes, through the inhabited region. De and Diexelthontes, having passed through Tauten, this region, Aficonto, they arrived Aesten Theriorder, at the region filled with wild beasts. De and Ectautes, from this region, Diexaesan, they passed through Ten Eremon, the desert region, Poiumenoi Ten Hodon, traveling across towards Zephyron, the west, Adamon wind. And there's the review slide. I think just thinking about this small section, again, not a style point. There is something about African fauna in the book, which I'll try to remember to provide. I think that second clause, Horsephason hoi nasamones. So there is a sense in which, whether this is Herodotus or whether this is Etiarchus being quoted by Herodotus, there is a sense that it's the people who live in that area who are providing this information. The ex tumenoi, so the being well provisioned, is an important thing. I think that's already been used within last year's exam, but just again something to think about. And in some ways, the next two lines are quite Homeric in a way. So the way in which, say, Odysseus is given some instructions, you've got to do, so like the instructions with Circe that he receives from Hermes, you've got to accept the potion. When she hits you with a wand, rush at her with your sword drawn as if you mean to kill her. She'll drop to her knees, invite you to a bed, but you've got to make her swear a meaningful oath that she's not going to try anything else. And effectively, as soon as he drinks the potion down, the next bit of the story is effectively just carries out as Hermes' instructions were. So those third and fourth lines are kind of following the instruction or the information that were at towards the end of the previous paragraph. If that makes sense. So it's like Herodotus has set out his story briefly with the many tribes of the Libyans and many tribes of Libya living here. That's the inhabited region. Then you've got the wild beast stuff, Ten Theriorder, and then we've got the desert region, Ten Eremon, and then we've got this added element about heading towards the west wind. Is that useful? Who knows? But there we are, and that's the end of page 134. Excuse me. So this is our final page. So the Nasamonians report a fabulous story of meeting a tribe of Pygmies. Here they also learn of a great river, which some believe to be the Nile. So, Diexelthontes de Coron, Polon, Samorde, Kai en Polis, Hemerais, Aedon de Pote Dendra en Pedio Pefucota, Kai Proselthontes, Eptonto to Epontos Epiton Dendron Harpu, Haptomonos de Autois, Epelthon Andres Microi, Metrion Elatones Andron, Labontes de ergon autus de elon megiston kai diexalthontes tauta afficonta eis polin en pantes ersan isoi tois agusi to megathos chroma de melanes paradeten polin ere potamos megas ere de af hesperas pros helion anatelonta effinonto de en auto crocodiloi, which means de and Diexelfontes, having gone through Coron, Polon, Samorde, a large sandy region, high en Police Hermeris, and taken many days. Potte, at some point, there indeed, Adon, they saw dendra, trees, perfukota, growing en pedio on a plain. Kai and Proselfontes, having gone towards, understand, the trees, heptonto, they began to pick, or they began to grab the fruit to carpu epontos epi that was on ton dendron, the trees. De, but haptomonois autois, as they were picking or grabbing andres microi, some small men, elatones, smaller, metrion andron, than men of normal size, epelthon, approached them, understood, and Labontes, literally having taken these, but took these, de, and ergon, led autus them, d, through Megiston, very great Helon marshes, high, and Diexelfontes, having passed through Tauta, these, so the marshes, Afficonto eis Polin, they arrived at a city, in which Pantes, all, Ersan, were, Isoi, equal, to Megathos, in size, tois agusi, to those leading them, de, and melanes, black, chroma, in colour. De, and Paratern pollen, alongside the city, ere, there was flowing, megas potamos, so a big or a great river, de ere, and it was flowing af Hesperas, from the west, pros, towards the Anatelonta Helion, the rising sun, de, and crocodiloi, some crocodiles, ephinonto, appeared, and auto, in it. I didn't do the animals bit, did I? Shucks. Anyway, so there isn't really much to say about that. We've got lots of compounds of Urkamai. So Dxlfontes, Proselfontes, Dxlfontes. So in some ways they're there to sort of signpost what's going on. In others, maybe it's doing something a little bit more. Got heptonto and haptomenois, so we've got the same verb there. Heptonto, I imagine, is going to be imperfect there, and haptomenois is just a present middle participle. Well, something like that. Maybe the word painting with metrion andron with elatones within it, being smaller. I don't know. But again, this thinking about one of the things that the Semeticus bit in the 2023 exam talked about was the sort of scientific language or quasi-scientific language that was being used with that particular section with the experiment that he's conducting. So that you've got microi, metrion, elatones, small by a measure, that sort of thing. So maybe there's a little bit going on there, or maybe not. There's our review slide, slightly smaller than I'd like, but never mind. Final bit. Homender to amornu hetarku logos ace tutor moi dedelos there. Sorry, lostor. Plen hoti aponostersai te tus nasamonas hos hoi kurenaioi elegon kaitus anthropus ace hus hutoi afficonto goetas enai hapantas tonde de potamon tuton etearchos sonabalato enai ton nailon, which means okay, now this is a little bit tricky. Excuse me. So the dedelosthor in the anthology, it says that that's a third person perfect passive imperative of delor, to show. I think we were all about to say that. So literally, let it have been shown, understood by me. Okay. So we've got dare, so like indeed. Then we have to take the dedelos thor and the hot logos and to amornu etearchu kind of almost together. So indeed, let the story. So we're taking the let from the dedelos thor. So let's hot logos the story to amornu etearchu of Etearchus the Ammonian. Then we come back to dedelosthor, have been shown moi by me, ace tutor thus far. So they do offer a bit of a fudge of that's all I'll say about Etearchus's account. So that all of that could be kind of learnt as a gloss of that's all I'll say about Etearchus's account. Plen hoti, except that he said FR, so that the he here is referring to Etearchus. He said both that te tus Nasamonas, the Nasamonians, upon Nostersai, got back home horse, just as hoi kurenaioi, the Cyrenians elegon, literally were saying, but said, And Kai, tus anthropus, the men, ace hus, to whom, hutoi, these referring to the young aristocratic men, aphiconto, had come, Aenai were, hapantas, all, goetas, sorcerers or wizards. So the people of diminutive size, shall we say, apparently are all wizards as well. Because why not? So and indeed, etiarchos, so nabalato, guessed, that, understood, ton potamon tuton, this river, Aenai, was ton nailon, the Nile. And there's our review slide. So there are a couple of things here. So the source of the Nile. So the Nile has two major sources. The White Nile flows down from Lake Victoria in modern Uganda / Tanzania, and the Blue Nile joins it as a tributary at Khartoum, flowing in from Lake Tana in modern Ethiopia. So maybe as a break, having a look at the a map to see what's going on. There's a second note about pygmies and cranes. Around the foot of the Francois vase, around about circa 570, presumably BC, now in Florence, there is a frieze showing pygmies fighting with cranes, a popular scene in art. The pygmies gallop forwards on goats, armed with slings, clubs, and hooks. The cranes target the eyes of their enemy with long beaks. Such stories are the stuff of travellers' tales like Gulliver's Travels by Jonathan Swift or Lucian's Vera Historia. In fact, there are tribes in Central Africa where the average height is below 4'11". And I'll just read the note about African fauna, even though it refers to a previous slide. So I'll just see if I can get back to, there we go. Okay. In another part of his work, Herodotus describes the fauna of the parts of Africa infested with wild animals. Absolutely enormous snakes, lions, elephants, bears, asps, and asses with antlers, people with dog heads and people with no heads at all, with eyes in their chests. At least that's what the Africans say. And savage men and savage women, and a mass of creatures you just couldn't make up. So that's Histories 4:191-2. So I hope this will be helpful to everyone, all who use it. It's entirely possible that it won't be, but all the best.